welcome. It's 4 o'clock. We're at the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting for the fiscal year 2024 budget hearing. We're in the Carson City Community Center, the Bob Kroll Boardroom. Linda, can I get a roll call?
Mike Jones,
Here.
Bobby Rader,
Here.
Stacy Giomi, Steve Kim. We have a quorum.
If I could ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4, public comment. Would anyone, member of the public, like to comment at this time? No? Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on then to item 5 for possible action and discussion regarding approval of the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority final budget for fiscal year 2024. I think, Chris, you've got the summary.
So this item is, we're required by NRS 354598 to hold a public hearing on the tentative budget, at which time interested persons must be given opportunity to be heard. At the public hearing, the CTA Board of Directors shall indicate changes, if any, to be made to the tentative budget and shall adopt the final budget by a majority vote of all the CTA Board of Directors, excuse me. We do have a few changes since the May 8th meeting. The first two come from the request made by our Nevada Department of Taxation Budget Analyst, after she completed a review of our tentative budget. The first one's on page 4 of 16. It's on Schedule S2. She asked that we use a different demographic report than we had in the past and that we update the population numbers to be changed to reflect the Governor Certified Series Estimated Population Report that she sent me. And then on Schedule 31, which is page 13 of 16, she asked that we add our upcoming contract with our auditors. She said usually if they don't have a contract there that they want to add the auditor. Our current contracts expired June 30th of 23, and we're not finalizing the upcoming for fiscal 24 yet. So we'll have those coming up in the next month. So we've added that to it. Then there's been approximately $19,000 in additional expenses added to be able to make some ADA updates to the website with KPS3 and for some additional possible grant opportunities. The revenue was reduced by approximately 1.93 overall 3 funds due to property shifting from a taxable room rental to a non-taxable rental. And the last change is I included the notice of compliance letter that we received on Friday, and that's on page 16 of 16. And if you don't have any questions, I'll pass it back to Mike.
Any questions for Chris? Board Member Giomi?
They're asking us to put in the budget an effective date of a contract that we have not yet approved. Is that right?
Yes, I asked the same thing. I said, well, we don't have one yet. And they're like, well, you're with your auditor. And she goes, we usually ask that we at least list our auditors. So the contract we have a proposal that we put in the budget from Casey Nealon, who did our audit, that we're under contract for our next audit with them in this fiscal year. And now we have a proposal from them for the next 3 years that we budgeted for.
Okay.
But, I know, the logic was...
I kind of have an issue approving a budget that lists a contract that isn't yet approved. I'm struggling with that a little bit.
Folder then?
Yeah, basically, it's just, we put the money in. We just don't have the contract yet. We'll have it probably by June 30th in place, but we just don't have it officially signed and executed yet.
I mean, that's not a contract that has to come to us?
No, because it's our auditor. It's the professional services contract.
Okay, well, that changes it a little bit then. I was thinking that we had to approve that contract and, okay. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, now we'll move forward. I will now open the public hearing to consider the approval of the fiscal year 23-24 tentative budget report for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. I will first call out for questions from members of the CTA staff. I'll then entertain questions from the public, followed by questions from the board. I will then close the hearing before we move on to the next agenda item, which is to take action to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget. With that, are there any questions from the CTA staff? Are there any input or questions from the public? Do you have a question? Can you come up to the microphone, sir? Thank you.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you, Chair and Committee. One of the things on this budget deal is how much does it reflect on what you're looking for as far as grants, or I'm not understanding because I didn't have time, quite frankly. It's a bit hard to find your agenda, so it was like I didn't. And just want to say that when I went on the calendar, I did the click and you're supposed to be able to get to the agenda, and that didn't come up. So I am far behind, but I am curious since Supervisor Jomi brought up the fact that he was a little confused about whether or not you were going to be voting on it or if it was a placeholder. So I'm going to make this quicker. But the main thing is, how much does this reflect when you do a budget that you need somebody to audit and such? How many different grants are you working on now, or did you get involved with bringing that cash in that you need an auditor for? I'm just really trying to learn the basics here, and I'm sorry for waiting. I wanted to be early for the meeting so I could have asked you and said, hey, what is this? And you said, this doesn't apply, Mr. French, leave it off. But if somebody could maybe answer that a little bit as to how much, it doesn't say how much cash you're looking at and such. So could I address that?
We'll have Chris address that for you, Mr. Fern.
So just to be clear, the question is what we use the auditor for?
Yes.
So the auditor audits each fiscal year, and then we produce a financial statement from that audit, and that's required. So we have one done every year, and that's what that one is.
Well, I think I got that part. The part I didn't get was, how much are you looking at in your budget right now? And how much your forecast?
How much we're looking for the
Cash, you said
to pay the auditor?
19,000? Was that 19,000 that's your full?
No, to pay the auditor, it's listed on that last page.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not worried about what you pay the auditor. I'm asking more of what you have in your budget or your finances, and how much of that finance money is through grants, or how. I'm sorry, I really have to know the basics, and this is
So
not
if
probably
you go-
appropriate.
If you go to page 7 of 16 in the attachment,
Yeah, I didn't have that. That's what I'm saying, couldn't find any of that.
David, I think, yeah. Go ahead and keep that.
So you're looking at on this, it's 69,222. And how much of that is grants and how much is other methods of creation?
Let me get to that
Danny, for
page
the
again.
record, this is Dave Peterson, Executive Director with Fiscal Carson City. I'm just going to jump in real quick. On page 7, if you see in column 4, final approved, intergovernmental revenue, $69,222. That is the total of State of Nevada Commission on Tourism grants that we've applied for.
Thank you. That
You're welcome.
just, this really helps, and I'm sorry, the librarians
That's all right.
usually help me, and I couldn't find it, so thank you.
No problem. Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. And I keep this? Thank you.
Any more public input? Seeing none, I will now close the hearing and open it up to the board to discuss the fiscal year 2024 tentative budget. Any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the CTE final budget for FY '24 as presented.
I'll ask for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That moves us on to item number 6, board comments or announcements and requests for information. Would any board member like to make an announcement or request information? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7. One more time, I'll ask for any public comment.
Thank you, Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you all. One of the things I'd like to bring up is the fact that I couldn't find what I needed on the computer. And I don't know that it's just me, but I had information that didn't seem to be updated. It had the right date, but it didn't have the right people on the board. It only had,
Well, Mr. French, I'll address that with the necessary responsible parties to make sure the website's updated and
Well,
find out.
and I appreciate that, and it could be operator error, but usually, once I'm pointed in the right direction, I get there, and I didn't this time, so thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, may I ask where you were looking? Like what website you were on? Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. Okay.
The main thing was that I got a screen that said, I should have probably made a print of that. I made a print of what I could make a print of, and this is pretty much the information it gave me. It was what you were about, when your meetings were, but it didn't have an agenda option. It did have the board members, and that was about it, but I couldn't find an agenda. And so it took a bit of time to figure out I couldn't find it, and so that was unfortunate. So I'm sorry I was almost late. But so not being able to get the additional information like your actual materials, I couldn't even get the regular agenda, which I got when I walked in. But that was my main problem, and I think it's a problem with the main calendar in itself. It's so fragmented in ways. So thank you.
All right. We're just on to item 8 then, for possible action to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.